Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. As I promised, I will be making many different videos to help you understand what's really going on in the world, what's going on inside your body, what's going on as far as your starseed journey goes, and all the many millions of things that you have to embrace and learn so that we can all ascend together. I promised in one of yesterday's podcast, I forget it was in the video or in the audio version, that I'll talk about the physical body, the physical vessel, which is this. We all have a body, and that physical body is God's perfect image of itself. God designed every single one of us in his and her perfect image of itself. The human body is so much more than just a body. It is a very complex series of antennas, and every single organ in us represents something different spiritually. Just like the heart represents love, the brain represents logic, every single organ in the body represents similar or its own specific energies. So when God created us in its perfect image and you signed up for your soul mission, you accepted the body that you have today. I said this body is the same body that you have had when you incarnated on earth the very first time. And the reason why I have this body is because this is the perfect body for the soul mission that you signed up for. Along the many different incarnations, you probably remember it's up above, I made a podcast about abandonment. Many incarnations ago, possibly millions of incarnations ago, we came into this body, and then we didn't have the recipe to navigate through the world. So we got really frustrated. We might have even been killed and hurt. Something happened to us, and we said, fuck this. I'm going to abandon this body and start all over again. Well, the problem is this body is assigned to us. It's yours. So then other entities, energies, started to occupy it, used it, misused it, and so on and so forth. And here we are again, many incarnations later. You have a body that is talking to you. It has pains, it has desires, and it has messages for us. It has messages for you. And this is where a lot of humans have made terrible mistakes. I'll give you guys some examples. Every time we have any kind of medical condition, it is because we programmed ourselves at the soul level in between incarnations and at the very first time we incarnated. We programmed ourselves for certain medical conditions, even if it's cancer and seemingly deadly, because through that medical condition, we are supposed to discover the root cause of our thinking pattern that creates that particular illness, heal the thinking pattern, which is your mind, and then heal yourself, basically. Healing yourself has such a misconstrued ideation about it. Most people think you heal yourself so you can feel better and then you do your stupid stuff. You go back and the more idiotic, moronic thing that most people do. You heal yourself because that is going to be your evolution. When you understand the consciousness that created that particular illness, you overcome it, you raise your vibration and you improve and upgrade your DNA. So you programmed yourself for certain illness because that illness should awaken you to what's missing in your consciousness. A lower consciousness creates and created that particular form of illness or disease. When you heal that thinking pattern, the low consciousness, the disease cannot exist anymore. And that not only heals the body, but also allows you to get closer and closer to your purpose, your life purpose. You cannot be in your purpose when you're ill, when you're sick. I have focused on medical hypnosis and medical psychology and quantum psychology for the last 12 years. For some odd, strange reasons, my soul signed up to be trying on a bunch of medical conditions. Really painful, excruciatingly painful medical conditions. But through the evolutionary work, the unconscious work, I was able to identify the thinking pattern, heal it. The illness left my body, and I was able to think above it. And the way it shows up today is that when somebody says, I have cancer, or I have diabetes, or I have this and that, I said, piece of cake. Piece of cake. When you know the recipe, everything's easy, right? The biggest problem that we have had as humans is that we didn't have the recipe. We didn't know what the hell was going on. We didn't know who we were. We didn't know what we were doing. And everything over time, through the egoic programming, got projected out onto the outside. So we began to do machines and hook this up and that up, not realizing that the problem was created from the mind, from within. So your physical vessel, the body, is an extremely important set of antennas. Through the mind, through the thinking patterns, each organ gets programmed and activated. It's not only the brain that transmits and activates the laws of the universe and the law of attraction. Your heart also transmits. Your liver also transmits. Every organ has its own function. Why is this important? Is because the inner work is also complicated by the pre-programmed illnesses and the pre-programmed traumas that we program ourselves to experience. We program ourselves to experience for the purposes of finding out what caused it and then, as I mentioned, heal it. We have something called a heart, every single one of us. This is the organ that is supposed to be the 360-degree eye. This is supposed to be the organ that sees behind you, sees to the left, sees to the right, and it's also referred to as the cosmic heart. Most of our hearts are shattered to a million pieces. Most of our hearts are walled off. It's called a heart wall. Walled off and blocks the Creator, blocks other people, and blocks closeness. And in that, through that, we operate with total and utter blindness. When the heart is completely walled off, we don't see what we are supposed to see. And over the millions of incarnations, the ego took over and it began to give us feelings. We begin to feel with our minds. Not the heart, but the mind. A shattered heart cannot feel. A broken heart will not pick up the necessary pieces that you need to be safe. A broken heart will misguide you because it's programmed now to avoid another heartbreak, another distrusting episode. It's programmed now to not believe in God. And it further programs the rest of your body to start trusting not your intuition, not the heart, but the mind. And as you know, 98% of our mind is occupied by the ego. So the ego generates now feelings. So throughout the incarnations, we gathered all kinds of negative experiences and good ones too. And through that, we populated our subconscious and unconscious minds with stories, with depositions of different experiences and different energies. A lot of these energies were there for multiple reasons. The highest reason is for our evolution. But if we don't consciously work through it, we are not going to be evolving through that. We're going to be devolving, right? That's the biggest problem for us, that if we don't put conscious effort into our evolution, which is our unconscious work, the change work, the inner work, then we are devolving. Even for those of you that have done the true work, the quantum and beyond, every day, every week, there's still something new that you have to plant in your mind or remove from the mind. Basically, it's your operating system that you non-stop upgrade and cater to. I'll give you an example, from my example, because that could help you. I come from many billions of years ago. I'll make many different videos so that you understand who you really are as a star seed and who we are as a collective, and it's not what you think. We are incredible warriors, but we tried on the human experience, and through that we collected experiences that we have never been told how to clear. And if we don't clear something, that experience will weigh you down. In the biggest thing for me was that for 20 plus years, I was suffering from excruciatingly painful IBS. It's called Irritable Bowel Syndrome. But more specifically, it's the large intestine area which symbolizes our dark, unconscious underworld. Excruciating pain. So yes, I went to the doctors, and all X-rays came back fine, and all the the medical exams came back fine, and of course it came back fine because it was psychological, it was spiritual. But then I went to this healer and that healer and blah blah blah, for 20 years, and not one had the first clue. Well, turns out, and that's why I know trauma so well, because along my journey, apparently it was my soul mission to uncover, discover, and heal these excruciatingly painful physical symptoms and realize what patterns are causing it. The unconscious darkness in us, and you hear me talk about this because most people have no idea and then they deflect, not me, and I'll tell you in another video why this is important. Okay. So I have an amazing past. I came back from the future, like all of you guys, the star seeds. We came back from millions and millions of years from the future with a much higher consciousness, from 7, 8, 9, 10th, 11th dimension. We came back for the purposes of correcting a cosmic historical mistake which we are experiencing today. Right now we are in Johannes Revelation, and we are experiencing and watching God's wrath for people not cleaning up their minds, not releasing the evil within them, buying into satanic programming and promoting them consciously and unconsciously. So we starseeds, we came back from the future, and we didn't just plop down here to the present moment. We went back to a past position. Some of us went back to the Civil War. You brought your higher consciousness, you took on a human form, and through that you're supposed to go through the human experience, which gives you the credibility and the experience. It will hurt, it has hurt, and then you are supposed to cleanse your mind from the experiences and go back to the original high consciousness that you were. That way you clean up the quantum field and you fulfill that specific task whereby you help God, Master Creator, to eliminate that particular negative energy that manifested back then. Some of you went back millions of years ago, back to ancient times, for the same purposes. You brought in a higher consciousness, you took on a human body, and then you went into a war zone. You went into all kinds of negative experiences for the purposes of you seeing what's really going on, what the human mind created, and then you're supposed to integrate your higher consciousness, heal the particular story and your own hurts that was experienced through your vessel, and then do God's work through you and clean up the consciousness as well as the quantum field, so that particular story will not repeat. That's why history repeats itself, because the unconscious patterns are never changed. And that's what we came back to do. Some of you, myself included, we went back all the way to the beginning of the creation of Gaia. That's 4.3 billion of years. 4.3 billion years. That's a long damn time. Of course, that is a linear time, since everything happens simultaneously. So for example, in my case, I went back to 4.3 billion years ago, to the past, and for the same purposes, bring a much higher consciousness, go through a shit ton of bad experiences, try it on to see what creates what. It really is just the whole point of this exercise that we all have signed up for, is to understand the divine logic. What creates misfortune, what creates suffering, what creates joy, what creates success, how long will that success last, what makes it fall apart. So basically understand God's logic and the divine operating system. And through that, our job is to improve that experience for us and for the collective, and this is where we fail. We had a part of our mind, a huge part, 98%, then got overtaken by our ego. And the ego promotes misery, the ego promotes suffering, and the ego promotes all kinds of negative programs, because the ego's ultimate agenda is to prove to you and to me and to us that God is incompetent. Well, we came back to work with God, and yet we accepted a substandard thinking. And this is what I have referred to, a lot of these satanic egoic programs. We have hundreds of thousands of them. So our job as starseeds is to understand who we are. And who we are is not, let me put it this way, it's amazing. Most of us are starship commanders. Not all of us came from this universe. This universe is just a fractal of the omniverse. We came from different universes to bring experiences and consciousness back to save and inherit the most important planet in the omniverse called Earth. But in the process, as you know, you got your ass kicked, you got hurt, your heart broken, and blah, blah, blah. So the reason why it's important to empty your mind, neutralize your memories, and that would be your shadows, your parts complex, your beliefs, is because your body is what's referred to as the Holy Grail. You can't put anything in it when it's full of shit. It's full of memories. You're supposed to empty it. Empty the Holy Grail so that it can accept more. The solar codes, they're coming down today, and you feel them. October is going to be brutal. Only for those that are not clean in the mind, that haven't done the work. The solar codes represent the divine light. When your Holy Grail, your mind, the body, the vessel, created in God's perfect image, is empty, that means you healed yourself, you have reached Christ consciousness, then you will be able to take in the light. Anyone who did not work on their mind, we're going to be, let's be honest, fried. Okay? They're going to be, just fried from the inside. And this is what the Bible refers to as hell, the burning. The hell is not a place, it's inside. Everything's inside. It's in the mind. The heaven that you are creating right now, once you do the work and you release your trapped memories and whatnot, is the most important thing to do so you can accept more light. Those who don't have room in the mind will be then departing. So your body is the Holy Grail. Your heart is supposed to be your major antenna, so gotta heal the heart. But a broken heart is controlled also by the ego. The ego will tell you to not do anything. You already done the work. And that's why we feel so separate and lonely, because the heart's completely shielded off, the brain took over, and then we are completely lost. That's what needs to be healed. So back to the body. Every single organ represents something, but it represents so much more than you read in books. Like you've got 2 kidneys, therefore it symbolizes a relationship. And the ego mind likes to translate that as your physical relationship that you're in today. Well, it's not about the current relationship. Your current relationship is a representation of an accumulation of past stories. It's your relationship, potentially from past lives, and it's your relationship with the Creator. You see, what the mind does is that we disowned way back when, through our pain and suffering, we disowned the relationship with the Creator, and our ego created micro projections of that pain, and we project it now out onto other people. Bad teacher, bad lama, bad wife, bad husband, lazy husband. And it really is us not having healed our own laziness, and we blame God for it. So the ego hides the true story, and we project it out onto individuals so that we can temporarily feel better. In 2010, February of 2010, that was my true waking moment. I didn't have to do ayahuasca, and by the way, ayahuasca will never wake you up. It grants you access to a little bit of a bigger reality than you were in, and then you go back to sleep. In 2010, February, I was paralyzed by a stroke. Okay? Some of you know that. And stroke really is a spiritually induced, psychologically induced condition, messaging the individual that you're overusing your brain at the expense of your heart. The brain symbolizes our command center, and I was, being the starship commander that I am, some of you are too, I was very busy programming, thinking, being logical with a broken heart. I was running through the world, probably for millions of incarnations, with one of our most complex traumas called a heartbreak. I mentioned there's 11 traumas in every single one of us, and every single one of them is very complex. One of them is a heartbreak. We all have it. It's not a story that you can heal with one quantum hypnosis session. It's very complex. It's loaded with ego tricks, and whatever you think is true is the opposite. So our body then gets used to feel things, but we learn to feel not with the heart, but with the ego mind. This feels right. I resonate with it. Yeah, it's your ego. And whatever illness, medical condition you have had, you pre-programmed it in your body for the sake and the purposes of your own evolution. So now you find out what it is. We are supposed to learn and find out what it is. And then you heal yourself, and then you see the next layer. As I mentioned, and this will be my closing statement, I had incredibly painful, long-lasting, excruciating gut pain. Medical profession found nothing, and of course they won't find anything because they are not of the consciousness. We come back from ninth, 10th dimensions with knowledge, but we forgot the knowledge of the human experience. And that's why we are going through it to reawaken that part of us, since the human is the most powerful species in the omniverse. We can manifest with emotions and thoughts, the combination of emotions and thoughts. But of course we have shitty emotions and shitty thoughts, so we're manifesting a ton of shit. We are more powerful than a lot of very advanced civilizations and ETs who have to use external equipment to manifest something outside of them. We don't need that. We can think, we can feel, combine the two, and whatever the combination is, then will turn into physical form. Now, as you can imagine, there's a million intricacies to this story, and most of us are completely clueless, completely negligent of these thoughts and emotions, so we created this mess, and we have to clean that up. First, we have to empty our holy grail, which is our mind, and then we begin to train the mind to start emitting the right emotion and the right thought, so we create paradise on earth instead of hell on earth. And this is what the bifurcation of timeline means. People in their mind who are going in the negative timeline created through negative emotions and negative thinking hell on earth, and the ones who go on the positive timeline are going to be retrained to create positive thoughts with positive emotions and create heaven on earth. Okay, that's the big difference. So your body, in closing, to recap, is thousands of little antennas. You got to empty your mind, and you got to heal your heart. The heart is shattered into a million pieces. There are techniques for everything. And that's why every time you said anything negative about your body, oh, I wish my ass was smaller, I wish my boobs were bigger, I wish my blah, 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 you're desecrating the Creator. And through that, I mentioned that in the other video, we create guilt. Guilt allows the ego and the devil to enter us and then start talking stupid stuff. So every time we desecrated our body, we were displeased with one of its attributes, go back and heal it. Forgive yourself. I always say forgive yourself, because most teachings go, you have to forgive the perpetrator. You are the perpetrator. You are the one that disowned yourself. You are the one that left God. You are the one that is not projecting and blaming the whole world for your inner shitty world. Fix your inner shitty world and everything will fix itself. Okay? So whenever you desecrated your body, you desecrated the Creator. Learn to heal yourself. That's all, right? Because the Holy Grail, created in the image of God, is now yet to receive so much more information. And if that mind, that body is not ready to receive, it's going to hurt. Cool? So guys, we have a lot of amazing years ahead of us. And as you know, once the total devastation happens, which I heard will complete by next June, Hurricane Ian was just the beginning. Okay? This is caused by our unconscious, unresolved issues, especially done in the last 4 years. The spiritual community who hasn't done the real work, who hasn't really learned the quantum psychology and the deep quantum shadow work, have caused this. We all have to witness it. That's what it means to be in this together. We're all in this together. Yeah, right. So we star seeds have a lot to do, a lot to learn. We are incredible beings, but we are limited into a human vessel that we further limited with subconscious and unconscious pattern. And that's what we have to release, so that as we upgrade the DNA, we will be able to have our capabilities back, such as teleporting, such as the telepathic communication and everything. The reason why we don't have it given to us yet is because the mind is too full of dangerous, deceitful programs. Imagine if you don't clean up your mind and you're still a criminal inside. Criminal doesn't mean you act like a criminal. Even if you say, I'm not a criminal, you are vibrating the criminal. It has to be neutralized. As long as we have these criminal programs, these deceitful, lying, even the subtle patterns that you don't even know exist, you will not be granted the ability to teleport, because that dishonorable mind then will be able to escape and install itself in other parts of the galaxy. We have a lot of responsibility here. So the DNA upgrade doesn't just mean you're going to be purified and you're going to get a brand new unicorn and gallop around the galaxy. No, no, no. They're going to clean up your mind. That will upgrade your DNA. And that will give you abilities when you earn it. When you really have proven that you're worthy of God's trust. And through our unconscious programming, we pushed that away. So we need to bring it back through the inner work. Regain God's trust.